So let's begin by just taking stock or inventory of our bodies right now. Allowing ourselves to move, to stretch, to adjust, to rotate. Whatever needs to be tended to in the body. Paying special attention to any parts of the body that are feeling particularly tense. Just taking a moment before we kind of begin formally to just bring a loving touch to anything in the body that's feeling sore or achy or like it's holding a lot of tension. Just using your own gentle touch, feeling the warmth of your own skin. Kind of reminding yourself as you embrace anything that feels uncomfortable to make note that this is the body. This is our body. We each have this body and we tend to ignore it unless we're engaging in something competitive or athletic or until it fails us and we get sick. But this is the body that we have. And we need to tend to it with loving kindness. So making whatever adjustments you need to make right now so that you can sit comfortably for our meditation. And then just, finishing up by rotating the shoulders back, opening up the heart area. And then just letting your gaze turn inward. And just noticing in the aftermath of all of this shifting and movement and stretching and embracing and just noticing what it feels like to now be in a space that's still. So as we engage in movement, our heart is pumping a little bit faster. We're not doing anything rigorous, but we can feel the blood moving through the body. We can feel the muscles engage and disengage. And so when we come to stillness, there may be the vestiges of that still available to us, where we can feel the contrast between movement and stillness. So just notice how the body is settling, how the energy is settling. Connecting with your breath. Just noticing when you're breathing in. Noticing when you're breathing out. And check in with yourself and notice what percentage of you is here right now. What parts of you have shown up to the cushion? What parts of you are present in this moment? And we don't need to malign the parts of us that are not quite here yet. It takes a while for us to settle. It takes a while for us to come to a place of quiet. And sometimes we never quite get there, and that's okay. So we know that this is a transition, right? To arrive here is a transition. And on some days we can be here 92%, and on other days the best we can muster is 18%, and that's all okay. But just check in and notice, where are you right now? What part of you is in this moment? What percentage of you, of your awareness, is here with this breath, with this body? And is there a way of increasing that awareness of this moment, of this body? Just with the next breath, can you feel that breath in your sits bones? The part of you that is connected with the furniture that you're sitting on. Can you feel that breath? In those pressure points where you're sitting. Can you let your awareness rest in the part of your body that is connected to the chair? And whatever you're bringing to the table with your body, whether you're feeling tired or you're sore, or maybe you're feeling great, you got a good night's sleep, whatever it is that you're bringing, can you be in that space, present to it? If you're dragging, can you be present to that sense of exhaustion? We're often afraid of like giving in to what we're feeling because it's not how we want to be feeling. But for this next few breaths, can you be with whatever state your body is in right now, in this breath, this moment? And as we become more present and more aware, we also listen more deeply. And so now that we've acknowledged that we are more than just a brain moving around, that we have this body, and now that we've sort of dropped in our awareness into our body center, is there something we can listen for that the body may want us to know? Is there anything that the body wants to tell us right now? And we may notice some resistance, and that's okay if that comes up. That's also part of what's happening in the moment. So we can make space for that. We don't have to force anything to happen here. You can just notice what is already happening. Let's shift our attention now to our mind center. And as always, when we're talking about the mind, we're not talking about the content. We're not talking about the stories we're telling or the planning we're doing, the narrating that might be going on. We're not talking about that. We're just noticing, what is the quality of mind today? So if we shift out of welcoming our body to this moment, what would it look like to welcome our mind to this moment? What percentage of our awareness is present to our mind center? Again, not the content. But as we breathe in and as we breathe out, is there anything that we can notice about the quality of our mind today, right now? And can we make space for whatever we find, even though we might want it to be different than what it is? We might want to be really alert and sharp and witty, and maybe that's not where we're at today. So if we're finding that really our mental acuity is not meeting our expectation, can we welcome that? Can we embrace that? Just as we embraced sore, tense parts of the body, can we embrace wherever we are with our mind right now? Our mind might be busy. It might be hard to redirect. It might be sluggish, waiting for more coffee. But whatever we find, can we welcome it and let it be as it is and listen? Can we listen? Not listening to the noise that the mind produces, but listening to the deep insights that the mind may want to share with us. Something that becomes obscured with all the noise of planning and executing and avoiding that we do. So what happens when we cultivate some stillness of the mind? When we settle into just following the breath and allowing whatever thoughts arise to arise without grabbing hold of them, without pushing them away, just letting them drift across our field of vision. Clouds on a clear blue sky, just drifting across. Allowing whatever resistance we encounter to be part of the moment. So if we listen, is there anything that the mind wants us to know? Anything that the mind needs to tell us? If you get lost in thought, just coming back to the breath, coming back to the body. The mind is tricky because it doesn't just want to tell us a thing, it wants to create like a whole story or a whole mini series around it. So we're not looking for this great epic narrative. We're just looking for anything that the mind might want to share with us about what it needs. Maybe it needs more rest. Maybe it needs more nature. Maybe it wants more play. Maybe it wants to say, good job at taking such good care of me. So let's shift our attention again to our heart space, our heart center. And again, just checking in and noticing what percentage of your awareness is available to you in this moment as we shift to the heart. As we check in and notice the hinges on the gate of the heart. Again, noticing if they're flung open and the heart is reaching forward, or perhaps they're a little bit more closed, protecting our hearts and knowing that whatever we find there is fine. Not overvaluing having this endlessly open, selfless, available heart. But sometimes that's appropriate, and other times it's appropriate for us to be a little bit more guarded, and that's okay. We're not doing anything wrong if we need to close a little bit to protect ourselves. But let's just check in and see, how is the heart right now? How open or closed is that gate? How well oiled are those hinges? So that if we need to make any adjustment in that opening or closing, we can do so with ease, without a lot of effort. Placing your awareness in the heart as if that's where you were living from. What would that mean to live from the heart? And just as we brought a tender touch to parts of the body that felt sore or achy or tense, and we brought tenderness to our mind, kindness to the thinking part of ourselves that is way too overcommitted and determined, but nonetheless is trying to keep us safe, then let's also bring this moment of kindness to our hearts. For navigating a world that's full of suffering, making our way through days where we never know what's really around the corner. It's an amazing thing that we do to walk through the world with an accessible heart, with the capacity to love. And if you notice any resistance, that's okay. It's all right. That's also part of what's happening here. Maybe the heart feels tender today, doesn't want too much inquiry. But see if, again, just as we did with the body, allowing our body to settle, and with the mind, allowing our thoughts to settle. If we allow the heart to settle and we listen deeply, what might it have to tell us today? What does your heart want you to know right now? So we've heard from our bodies, we've heard from our minds, we've heard from our heart. These sources of wisdom that are always available to us if we can embrace the stillness and the quiet long enough to listen. So let's just expand our awareness a bit to include all of us, our bodies, our minds, our hearts. And sitting with a moment, with this breath, with this breathing in, this breathing out. And seeing if we can take these three messages, if you received three, you may not. But if you got three messages from these three sources of wisdom, how might those fit together? And what might those be indicating for you? You don't need to hold this very tightly or think about this in a very analytical way. You can just sit with the breath and loosely hold the three messages, if you received three, that you received. Breathe them in. Breathe in the wisdom. And see if anything emerges for you. It might emerge in a concrete sense of something that needs to be done, but it might also show up more abstractly as a intuition or a feeling. And perhaps this is a place where things that have been avoided can show up. Things that may have been put off. So just resting with this idea of your own wisdom, coming from these very three different ways of accessing information: the body, the mind, the heart. Just breathing in, breathing out, entertaining ideas about what your wisdom is pointing to. And just check in and notice if your mind is quite busy and you're kind of, not right here right now. And that's all right. That's going to happen. It's a side effect of a central nervous system, and that's okay because it's an opportunity. Anytime we've wandered off is an opportunity to come back. So just gently bringing yourself lovingly back to this breath, back to this very loosely held wisdom that you've been given. You don't have to get excited or certain about anything here. You can just entertain the information that you received without having to make any decisions about it, without having to know. This may be something that unfolds over time. And always checking for the parts that feel some resistance, and that can show up in any number of ways: boredom, restlessness, feeling tired. Just making space for that too. It's all part of being a human being. Coming back to the breath if you've wandered away. Taking a few more moments to be in stillness as best you can right now. And if you've held these three pieces of wisdom, it may seem clear how they fit together, it may not. But if you have some sense of what you're being guided to, just notice what kind of energy is behind that. And again, this could be something that is a process and is going to need to be revealed over time. So don't get too connected with this exactly means this, because we don't know that. You might have a hypothesis or two. But holding it loosely enough that it can teach you, that we're not imposing what we think needs to happen, but truly deeply listening to our bodies, to our minds, to our hearts, for the wisdom that bypasses the thinking brain. So we're going to expand our awareness a little bit more as we come to the end of our practice time. And we're going to return to feeling those points of contact in the body. Noticing the weight of our hands in our lap. Noticing the floor beneath our feet. Becoming aware of any temperature changes that you notice on your skin. Feeling the breath move in, breath move out. And before we leave the practice altogether, before we leave this meditation, seeing, and if this isn't immediately available to you, that's fine, but seeing if there's any sense of how you can take the information you received today into your rest of your day, into your week, into your life. Is there anything that becomes immediately evident to you that would reflect putting this wisdom into practice in your life? And again, it may not be, that's okay. But just leaving space open for the possibility. Perhaps even spending the rest of your day looking for ways in which synchronicities can happen. And you can be invited into anything that may need to shift based on what you heard from your body and your mind and your heart. So let's take a breath or two more here. And if there's been any benefit that you've received from this practice today, let's just hold in our hearts that in a world full of so much suffering, there are many who, for whatever reason, don't have access to their own wisdom, or become confused about what is wisdom. So we might just imagine in these last few breaths together in this practice, holding them gently in our heart and wishing them the clarity or the stillness or the awareness that will help them in their journey.